What's up? Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to live your bet life. It is Thursday, which means Olin Kreutz is back with us today alongside Nicholas Moreano. I am Adam Hoge, and wow, I am green on that screen right now. that really pops. I was not prepared for that.
It's not that green. It looks good, man.
Oh.
Fluorescent, I think they call that.
Is that
fluorescent green?
Yeah, there you go. Would we call this drip?
Fluorescent, right?
Drip. That's going to be a thing.
Yeah, I like that.
Forever now.
I hope at one point I get some drip around here. I don't know. Maybe I should sign up.
Let's look at Adam.
Yeah,
there you go. You get the
That's a good way to
membership,
go.
you get the free
shirt.
T-shirt.
Yeah,
You got to
I
check
you.
Adam's single. Look at that shot.
Wow. I mean, it doesn't look that green in person, but, the lights, the great job that Lawrence does setting up the studio, it just makes everything pop. That's what it is. Welcome in. Excited to be here as we keep this thing rolling, getting towards the end of our first full week here on the CHGO Bears Podcast. And again, appreciate all the support, all the interaction. You can follow us on Twitter at CHGO_sports and at CHGO_Bears. Everybody watching on YouTube can see that. If you're listening to the podcast, we appreciate that too. Remember, you can find this as a podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, so make sure you go ahead and do that. And, of course, get that CHGO membership. You can get that, I would call it swag. Some people call it drip.
Drip.
It's all some
all
people
the
call
same.
it dope swag.
Dope swag, yep.
A lot of different names for it, but I'm always going to call it drip because Olin did it the one time.
Usually ask the kids, the kids, they know what to call it nowadays.
That's true.
That's where I really got drip from. Obviously, we didn't use drip in Hawaii back in the early 90s. No one really said drip there. So I get it from the kids at Loyola mostly. Those are where I get the cool words from.
Cool.
Yeah, you learn a lot from the high schoolers. That's
Oh,
for sure.
man.
For sure.
I'm sure coaching them, Adam.
Oh, my.
Some of the things they talk about.
The things you hear, you're just like, wait, can you translate that for me, please?
I asked a kid at my gym one day what he wanted to listen to music. And he said, Little Baby and Gunna. Okay, I had no idea who that was.
I don't either.
So I looked for it. I searched it forever. And finally he walked up and he said, Mr. Kreutz, it's Lil, L-I-L. Because I was spelling L-I-T-T-L-E.
Well, that's the thing, Olin. Like, there's so many Lil. You can put Lil whatever, and then you'll find different artists.
But I was spelling L-I-T-T-L-E. He finally had to tell me it's Lil, L-I-L. So finally I found him.
That's awesome. And we already have a comment talking about the war of the sweatshirts continue. We're not even going to acknowledge Nick's sweatshirt, quite frankly. Condolences in advance on the loss to Northwestern tonight.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Nebraska loss was surprising.
Yes.
Who was the Nebraska, his name, he fouled out. He had a hell of a game that game.
Oh, yeah. I'm forgetting his name, but towards the end of the game.
Towards the end of the game, and then he also got the foul from the ref just for looking at him. Remember that part of the game? Like, that was crazy. But that was a good game. That Wisconsin-Nebraska game. Nebraska just, man, I wouldn't have bet on them.
Good game for Nebraska.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good game for
Is that the one we were watching in Indy?
No, that was the Purdue game.
That was a Purdue game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I thought I handled myself with class. And,
You did. I'm surprised you were like jumping.
composure.
That was crazy.
Was that the game-winning shot, the last second shot?
Yeah.
That was a good
Off
game.
the glass.
Yeah,
We were
Purdue's
watching
pretty good, too.
We were watching that down in Indy.
Yeah.
And
I'm surprised.
I was
I
trying to stay as calm as I could.
Big Ten has got to be dangerous in the tournament coming up, though. They got a lot of good basketball teams, good big men.
Fun teams to watch.
Fun teams to watch.
Definitely. Yeah. So, Big Ten tournament going on down in Indianapolis right now. We're all representing our schools. But
University of Washington in the tournament?
I would have
no
idea.
Someone in the chat is what? Yeah, University of Washington in the tournament.
We got a
University of
super
Washington
chat
in the
right here.
tournament.
Look at that super chat right away from Bear Forever 14. Hoge, you're dangerously close to wearing Packer green on a Bears show.
No, he wouldn't do that.
But, okay, let's be honest, though. We can't just – green is a pretty common color. We can't just say any green is Packer green.
Especially this one.
I asked if this was the old Eagles Kelly green, and I was told no right away. This is more
He's a little more of an Eagles, I think.
Yeah.
Old school Eagles, Dal Makowski Eagles, maybe.
And
I'm still saying North Texas.
North
North
Texas.
Texas.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the mean green.
Green.
Yep.
The mean green. It's not Packer green. I wouldn't do that to
But
you guys.
thank you for the super chat, Bear
Thank you,
Forever
yeah.
14.
Yeah. All right, well, for the third straight day, we have quarterback news that does not have to do with the Bears, but maybe there's a connection to the Bears that we'll talk about here. But Carson Wentz, guys, what in the world are the Washington Commanders, as we're going to call them, doing here? I just if for the second straight year a team is that desperate to get rid of Carson Wentz, and the Colts really don't have another option right now, I'm just really this is probably an upgrade for Washington going out and getting Carson Wentz, but is it the answer? And that seems hard. It'd be hard to make an argument right now, I feel like, that Carson Wentz is the answer in Washington.
Yeah, what could Scott Turner do different that Frank Reich and those guys at Indianapolis couldn't do, right? And Ken Zampese, their quarterback coach, Scott Turner, the son of Norv Turner, the brother of Ron Turner. Anyway, long story short, I don't understand it. He doesn't protect the ball in critical situations, makes the critical mistake. Why Ron Rivera, Martin Mayhew felt like this is the guy to get him over the hump for $20+ million a year, but just shows you guys this league and finding a quarterback. Desperate. And we know we're Bears fans. I played for the Bears. I snapped to 18 different guys while I played for the Bears. You know how hard it is to find a quarterback. You see what the Broncos give up for what Russell Wilson. Look, if I am Seattle Seahawks, you don't trade a franchise quarterback. They don't make these anymore. So you see guys are just looking for quarterbacks. So you go out and you can do the biggest egos in the NFL belong to the coaches. The coaches think if I coach, I can get the most out of this guy. If Scott Turner, Ken Zampese, Ron Rivera, they think they're going to get more out of a guy who played for a team who was second in the league in rushing last year.
Well, the thing is, too, with Carson Wentz, in the biggest game where they needed them to be, a franchise quarterback against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Carson Wentz was furthest from that. And like you said, Olin, if Frank Reich can't get it out of Carson, I just don't see how you're going to get it out of there in Washington. And, the
Doug
Colts
Peterson, right? I don't mean to cut you off, but he played for Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
Another good quarterback. Now he's a Jacksonville Jaguars coach, right? So
it's a lot. And the Colts got a 2022 third-round pick and a conditional third-rounder because of trading Carson Wentz, which I think is nuts in itself that you can get that much from him.
And then Adam traded him with no other option.
Right, exactly.
Nothing else on the roster.
No, they don't.
And we all respect Ballard. I mean, we all know Chris Ballard.
Yep.
Sam Ehlinger, James Morgan are the quarterbacks on that roster right now.
Right.
James Morgan. He was
FIU.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember Scott. I remember looking at him. I think that was a couple years ago. Okay, so I'm going to give a shout out here to Zach Kiefer from The Athletic. Had a really good story with a lot of great insider knowledge on some of the stuff that was going on in Indy with Carson Wentz. And I'll just pick a couple things here, but said in his story, Frank Reich, who originally pushed for the trade to acquire Wentz last winter, actually apologized to Irsay after the season, according to a source. Guys, his numbers weren't even that terrible. He threw 27 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions, over 3,500 yards, I think.
The Colts now, if you want to study an interesting team on how a team accomplishes what they accomplished last year and misses the playoffs.
Yes.
I can't even explain it, really. Plus 14, right? 33 takeaways. Second in the league in rushing. 26 points a game. Giving up 21.
How
did they miss playoffs? Now, didn't Wentz, did he have to miss games because he wouldn't get vaccinated?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wonder if sometimes that came off as a bad teammate.
I think it probably.
Right, and eventually,
I know Irsay was upset about that.
In the end, now, I don't know. I'd have to go and look. Did he miss any games, or did they lose the games he missed for not being vaccinated? I don't know. Like you see what I'm saying? Like
he definitely missed a game, and I think they lost it. Maybe Nick can find it.
They needed one more win to get in, right?
So this again from Zach Kiefer's story. Some grew frustrated at what they deemed a lack of leadership, a resistance to hard coaching, and a reckless style of play, which had a role in several close losses this year. They were moving on from Wentz, period.
Listen, I don't mean to keep, listen, what game was that? You guys have to know this. I forget, where he just threw it up in the end zone. What game was that? And
was that against San Francisco in the rain? Or
it wasn't in
where he was falling and he
No, that was it was the home game against Tennessee, right? Where he threw, it was basically the pick
Oh,
six,
where he's back up in the end zone. Yes,
which Kyler Murray then followed up in the
it's
playoffs.
true, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, can you imagine putting in all that time, all that work, paying $20 million plus a year, and then this guy says, "I'm not gonna get vaccinated. I'm gonna throw the ball away." You know why the coach did what they did. You know why they want to get rid of him.
Yeah.
I want to ask the Commanders, what do you think you're gonna do? But it shows you what they have Tyler Heineke last year.
Yep.
The talent level at quarterback, and then you go back to, and I'm sure you guys talked about this. I mean, the Seahawks trade. If I'm the owner of the Seahawks, Schneider walks into the room, Pete Carroll, we're going to trade. I want to trade Russell Wilson. I said, okay, you guys are fired. Right, you're fired.
End of conversation.
Okay, that's it. Like, I'm moving on. There's like 4 of these guys in the world, franchise quarter. I got one here. He'll play 6-7 more years.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Anyway.
There's got to be another way to rebuild a team other than, just trading the quarterback away for a boatload of picks.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which, as we've seen in other trades like the Khalil Mack deal, does not mean that you're going to even get a replacement half as good as Russell Wilson, let alone fill in the other holes at the other positions. You'll be lucky to probably get one Pro Bowler out of those picks.
Right.
Quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And to bring this back to the Bears, we do have to give them a little bit of credit here. The Bears did their due diligence on Carson Wentz last year. Mm-hmm. They were in those discussions. They never made an offer because in doing their homework, and Matt Nagy obviously had a connection with Doug Peterson.
Yep.
In doing their homework, a lot of what you're reading now about Carson Wentz coming out of Indy was the stuff that they did their digging on a year ago, and they decided, you know what, we can do better. Now, they didn't do better getting Andy Dalton,
Yeah.
So that's a whole separate discussion, but at least they kind of dodged this bullet on giving up draft capital for Carson Wentz.
Yeah, so maybe to kind of transition here, like, how does this relate to the Bears? Well, the Colts need a quarterback. We were just talking about that. Sam Ehlinger right now is the guy that I guess they had to go, would be starting for them. Nick Foles is on the Bears roster right now, you guys. Frank Reich got a lot good out of him in that Super Bowl run. And we've seen the market. Like I just said, Carson Wentz, you got 2 third-round picks for him. Could there be a market for a Nick Foles, especially considering what the Colts have? They have a roster that's ready to compete. Like we were just saying, they have a defense that can create turnovers. You have Jonathan Taylor as a running back. It seems like they always have everything, but the quarterback is always a mystery. Would Nick Foles be maybe someone that's enticing for Frank Reich and the Colts?
Of course he is. And I think everybody knows the relationship between Nick Foles and Frank Reich, right? And Frank Reich was a quarterback coach in Philadelphia when they won the Super Bowl, when Foles had a great run, very comfortable playing for Frank Reich. And we realized now it wasn't John DeFilippo, because John DeFilippo was here. Remember, John DeFilippo was a big name coming out of the Philadelphia when they won the Super Bowl. But I think it was Frank Reich. And I think that, I don't know, didn't Frank Reich or Nick Foles write like the foreword for one of their books? Or I think Frank Reich wrote the foreword for Nick Foles. Anyway, they're very close.
Yep.
Right? And that would make sense. It's just, if the Bears already have a young quarterback, it would seem like Foles would be the perfect veteran backup to have around Justin Fields, to teach him how to be an NFL quarterback, to have a backup in case Justin Fields does get injured with his style of play, the way he moves around, the way he runs. That's always possible. And I don't know what his salary cap is this year, but it seems like you've already paid him the money. He seems like a good deal.
So I got the numbers right here. Nick, why don't you get that quote, by the way, here in a second, from what Nick Foles had to say about Frank Reich back in August. But in terms of the cap money for this year, Nick Foles is due a $4 million base salary. There's still $2.6 million of the signing bonus that's going to count against him. There's a roster bonus in there. Bottom line is he's a $10+ million cap hit to keep him. If you trade him, you do actually clear $8 million in cap space, which is not as pressing as it was this time last year.
Yeah.
But that could be enticing enough to make a deal like that, even regardless of what you get in return. I'm just sort of on the same page. I value backup quarterbacks, and I don't think that's terrible money for somebody that can give you a lot of benefits to Justin Fields. And as you saw in Seattle, when they needed Nick Foles to play,
He won him a game.
You could do a hell of a lot worse than Nick Foles having to come in a pinch if Justin Fields gets hurt.
And we saw that in Philadelphia when he won the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz got hurt. So I don't know. I just, when we're talking about quarterbacks, we're talking about a lot of times nowadays, you have to also talk about the salary cap. You have to talk about how much each position. Like, I think Frank Ragnow right now is the highest paid center in the league. If I told you the highest paid center in the league, makes. If you want a really good center, you're paying $12 million plus, right? Like you're paying. I think he makes $14 or $15 million a year.
Yeah,
like you have to put that out there also, right? Like you clear $8 million, but for a backup, like you're saying, for a backup quarterback, a guy you can put in, you can trust, he can run the offense, he can win games for you. Foles is to me, he's a hard guy to trade. Unless
I agree.
Unless you're talking about a second or third round pick, then the Bears don't have a second round pick. Unless you're talking about a pick that high, if Ballard and Frank Wright are willing to give that up, something crazy, then you can't say no.
No, absolutely, Lawrence. We have a super chat, right, that we want to get to real quick.
Yeah, just about Chris Ballard. Hold on, let me bring it up here. This is from Chris Baker. And I think he's missing a word here, but he's asking, is it time to admit that Ballard is just like media liked, like Ryan Pace? Is it more of a media thing with him?
I mean, he does make, outside of quarterback, I mean, the man does make some good moves and has his, roster and team ready to compete. But I could see where people can get this notion like, hey, you can't get the most important position on the field correct.
Okay, but can we give him a little bit of a pass? How many GMs have their franchise quarterback up and retire on them with like zero notice?
That is true.
That's a tough position to be put in.
Then you can trade him. NFL's a crazy place, man. Anyway, Ballard. I think Quentin Nelson is going to his 5th year. Darius Leonard, young too. These guys, it takes a while, right? I think Brian Urlacher, I think he was in his 8th or 9th year when he got to his first Super Bowl. It takes a while to learn how to win, learn how to lead a team, learn how to develop continuity. But if you look at the Colts roster, if you look at their numbers, like we just talked about, it's almost amazing that they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah,
with the numbers they put out there. Somewhat of part of me, I'm not a huge Frank Wright guy. The play that sticks out in my mind is they're in Buffalo. They're on the 1 yard line. You got Quentin Nelson. You got Kelly. You got a left tackle. I don't know if you guys remember the guy was signed by Green Bay, and then he went to the Colts to play. I don't know if you remember this guy. I forget his name now.
Okay.
But he was one of the first guys ever to play. He was the first guy ever to play for 2 different teams in the same playoffs. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, okay. Yeah. They ran a crack toss on the 1 yard line and pulled him. For me, I'm done with Frank Wright.
Yeah, that was
done. I'm done. That's it for me, right? I got Quentin Nelson. I'm just going to run it 3 or 4 times behind Q and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right? But so some of that I question. I know there were some rumors about whether him and Eberflus were getting along. Look, plus 14, 33 takeaways, 21 points a game. That's what Eberflus, when he comes into your meeting, that's what he tells you he's going to do for you. Like, we're going to take the ball away. I think Darius Leonard had like 8 forced fumbles last year. That's insane.
Yeah.
4 interceptions. Anyway, the team in the building is really good. We'll see where they go.
Adam, I got that quote. You asked Nick Foles in his press conference about the comfort level being with Frank Wright, and here's what Nick Foles had to say. Frank Wright is one of my favorite, if not favorite, coaches of all time. He understands me as a player. He understands me as a person. He also went on to say, this version of me right now is much better than the version that played in the Super Bowl. Put that through your mind. With him saying all this great stuff about Frank Wright, again, them needing a quarterback.
Right. And what did Washington just trade for Wentz? A second and a third?
2/3 a second. 2022.
Hey, Ballard, we'll take 2 threes and we'll take your 2 threes that you just got for Wentz.
The Colts have the second round.
Adam asked all the questions, man. Like he asked George about my $15 an hour. He asked all the big ones.
Yeah.
Hey, that was the most pressing question of the day.
Yep.
I can't believe it took 30 minutes or so to get that out.
Did you see the way he chewed? He was like, you were asking him. Did you see his face when you mentioned my name? He was like.
I hope he was prepared for that, but I don't know.
You know those meetings. Hagel them up there. They got to do a better job.
Yeah. The context, by the way, of that quote from Carson Wentz was from Nick Foles was when Carson Wentz got hurt in the preseason. That quote's back from August. Carson Wentz got hurt, and I know all of us in the media room. I think that because that injury came out while we were all at House Hall, and it was like, ooh,
Liz Frank, right?
What's that?
He had a Liz Frank. Didn't he have that, man?
And we're thinking, man, he might miss some significant time. Do they need Nick Foles? Now, I think there's a couple of things here that are now different. if you're Nick Foles, you may like Frank Reich as much as he said he did, but do you really want to go back in a situation where you're competing with Carson Wentz when Wentz comes back? Like that part's a little
last
awkward.
year.
I'm talking about last year.
Sorry,
yeah, sorry. I'm just talking about how things are different.
I just had him on the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I know. I know. Things are changing quickly. And then, but my understanding was also that the Bears were trying to do right by Nick Foles and didn't want to trade. Like, he didn't have a no-trade clause, but they didn't want to trade him somewhere where he didn't want to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big mistake, though, right? I mean, they had 2 veteran quarterbacks. You got to get another young guy in the building to develop. It's just to me, it's just a problem with the way Ryan Pace handled that whole quarterback for years. I think it's fair. Anyway,
yeah, no, it's completely fair. So obviously the difference now is you have a new GM, but you also don't have Andy Dalton, and now Carson Wentz is not in Indy. So the whole situation is different. I could see now where Nick Foles might actually want to go to Indy, and the Bears might actually be like, no, we need you to be our backup quarterback now because we don't have Andy Dalton anymore.
Well, it depends on if Ballard gets that desperate. And if you're Foles, you pick the phone up. And you say, like, I got the guy you want. And Foles knows Ballard, right? They worked together in Kansas City for years. And if I'm Foles, I call him. And I say, man, you just got 2 threes. I need a 2. What are you willing? What you need a quarterback. Everybody needs a quarterback, right? I mean, unless Ballard's going to do the version of the 2005 Bears where Kyle Orton's at quarterback, which is going to run the ball and give up 12 points a game. I mean, that's just.
Was that wasn't it like what year was the Craig Krenzel game in Tennessee?
Craig Krenzel was 2004.
Okay.
Kid Krenzel. Kid Dynamite.
Yeah. Do you remember that game in Tennessee I'm talking about?
Yes. Yeah, that wasn't that Peanuts game?
Yeah. Bears won the game.
Yeah.
You guys won, but I want to say it was like less than 100 yards offense.
Well, in 2010, do you remember the game against Carolina when Matt Forte and the quarterback was
Todd Collins?
Todd Collins, but on the other side it was it Jimmy Clausen for Carolina? And it was, I don't know what the combined passing yardage was,
it wasn't very much.
but it wasn't a lot.
Good times.
Hutchinson?
Sometimes they should issue refunds for games like that.
Rex Grossman, right? Grossman got hurt in Minnesota, I think. Right, and then it was Quinn.
Jonathan Quinn.
Kid Krenzel, Kid Dynamite. And then Chad Hutchinson, we took him off the mound. I think he was still throwing pitches that year. That was something, man. That was Terry Shea.
That was the irony of last season. As bad as the Bears' quarterback play was, have they ever had a quarterback room that ever included players as good as
but
Justin
as true as that all is, in the last 6 years, 4 times the Bears have averaged under 20 points a game.
I know.
Right? Like, Nagy's offenses are some of the worst. Even if you put all those names out there, statistically, some of the worst offenses the Bears, and this is saying a lot because I played on a lot of them, the Bears have ever seen.
Yeah.
Ever.
And 2018 gets inflated because the defense was scoring that
the
year
takeaways,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Same thing in 2006 when we had 26 points a game. Same thing. Right? I think the only time in the last 20-something odd years you could say the offense averaged over 24, 25. I think they averaged 27 points a game in Trestman's first year was what, Adam?
2013.
13.
Yeah.
The defense was horrid.
I know.
Right? I think they went from like 5th to 30th or something. Right? So, anyway.
By 14, that was the worst defense I had ever seen.
I mean, you could go back. You could go. So, Lovey got fired because the offense couldn't score points. Mm-hmm. Trestman got fired because he lost the locker room, but even in his second year, they couldn't score points. John Fox got fired because the offense couldn't score points. Matt Nagy got fired because
offense
couldn't score points.
See the common denominator here that keeps continuing?
Hey, special teams, though.
Special teams. With Dave Tobe, right? Tabor.
Yeah. Hey, the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. You'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. That's a pretty sweet deal. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com. We'll help you out. Remember that PointsBet is your home for live in-game betting. They even have a new exclusive feature, the live NBA same-game parlay. For the first time ever, you can build the perfect live same-game parlay only with PointsBet. You can even boost your live same-game parlays as well. Now, online sign-up is available in Illinois once again. Signing up with the fastest sportsbook is now easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. Use code CHGO to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
All right, Chicago sports fans, if you aren't a member of our CHGO family, what are you waiting for? Members will have access to our premium content from all of our great writers. You also get a free t-shirt of your choice when you become a member. And you get access to the members-only Discord, the CHGO Lounge. And, of course, we have podcasts and live shows on every team, every day. So come join this amazing family that is constantly growing here at CHGO.
All right, we're going to keep the conversation going. Focus more on the Bears, all that Carson Wentz.
Can I ask one question before we
Sure.
focus on the Bears? What do you think about with the Colts? What do you think about Deshaun Watson? Think anybody's going to go after him eventually? Seahawks, Colts.
I think that's kind of like the elephant in the room.
The
right?
elephant in the room, right? Like someone eventually is going to have to go down there and figure out
What's going on?
where he stands.
Yeah.
Because the guy was a good quarterback. And like we said, I mean, there's just not a lot of him. So he's going to get another chance. I mean, as long as obviously his legal matters clear up.
Well, and I think we're going to find out more tomorrow. I think.
I think that's what it is.
Is it tomorrow?
Deposed or what is happening?
I think it's getting presented to a grand jury tomorrow, and they'll find out, I guess, whether or not they're going to bring down real charges. But yes, that's to answer your question. Depending on how that all plays out legally, you still have a very, very, very talented quarterback who's still really young, and would command a lot in a move.
Absolutely. I mean,
Interesting.
Seahawks just lost their quarterback. I don't know,
Yeah. And their linebacker.
And Bobby Wagner.
So they go for the food. Anyway, I was just wondering what you guys. I didn't heard anything else about him, but he's the name I keep thinking about when you see teams like you would say the Colts are Deshaun Watson away from being a Super Bowl contender.
Oh yeah,
right. Like you add him. I wouldn't say Seahawks. The Seahawks are not a Deshaun Watson. No, they're not even close. But the Colts are, right? So you could add him to that team, and they would be dangerous.
Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned Bobby Wagner's name. We talked about this yesterday on the show, but you weren't here. Would you sign him to pair him with Roquan Smith right now?
32
I
years
like
old.
Bobby Wagner. I like what he brings. I don't like him for the Bears, where the Bears are. I don't think the Bears are a playoff team next year. Right? I don't think they take that jump next year. But Bobby Wagner is, like guys tell me that played against him, he's one of those dudes who stands in the middle of the field and is like, this play is coming. They're in this formation. So he brings that preparation, that kind of information processing. Like they talk about quarterbacks, middle linebackers do the same thing.
Yep.
Okay, they process information. They look at formations. They look at down and distance, and they tell you what play is coming. And those are the hardest guys. Ray Lewis was amazing at that. Those are the hardest guys to play against. So teaming him with Roquan wouldn't be a horrible idea in that defense. It'd just be interesting, man, to see where the Bears think they are. But I wouldn't go get Bobby Wagner right now.
We're going to switch the conversation up a little bit here. Want to talk a little bit more about the Bears roster, players that you might be excited to see coming up in this season. And also, we're going to get to some candidates for regression too, which is always something that happens every year. We just got to figure out kind of who those players might be. But we're going to start with this. Players not named Justin Fields. Cannot pick Justin Fields. That one's too obvious. That you are looking forward to watching in 2022. Nick, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I'm going to start with a guy that's maybe not the biggest name on the Bears, but did have a good season last year, and that's Travis Gibson. Someone that's going to be moving back to being that 4-3 defensive end where he played at Tulsa. But I think that's a guy that, look, Robert Quinn, I don't think we're expecting him to have the season that he's going to have in 2022, but I think still a guy that's going to get some opportunities in this defense by Alan Williams and Matt Eberflus, but somebody that just showed flashes. I think back to the Baltimore Ravens game at Soldier Field, the one that the Bears lost, but you saw a lot of good signs of him just, diagnosing what plays were going on in the backfield, fighting through blocks, making tackles, getting a sack in that game. But Travis Gibson, one of those young core pieces that I think, I'm excited to see what he can do now in his third year in the NFL.
Just quickly,
I like that. I like Travis Gibson last year. I thought he did improve a lot. I think being around Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn obviously is a big advantage, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, for me, any offensive lineman, Tevin Jenkins, Larry Borum, I love watching those guys play. Sam Mustipher, obviously, everybody knows my relationship with him. Eddie Jackson. I want to see if Allen Williams can get him back to the level of play that he was at in 2018. I mean, the guy was a dynamic playmaker back there, a Mike Brown kind of a type. I remember talking to Mike Brown about him, and I've talked to some different people, and we mentioned the name Matt Bowen on this podcast before. It does work for ESPN. Extremely smart guy when it comes to secondary. But people who understand coverage, and I don't know, Adam and Nick, because if people relay the same thing to you guys, but they rave about Eddie Jackson, man. They rave about his skills, covering the different things he can do, the different coverages you can run with him. So just seeing him maybe in a new system, new coaching. We know the defense coordinator, Allen Williams, is a secondary coach, right? And the last good year he had was under Ed Donatel, who's now the Vikings defense coordinator. But anyway, excited to see him play just because they could use a playmaker back there in that defense.
Yeah, I like that. I like both of the players you named. You know, I thought Travis Gibson showed some progress last year. I'm actually somewhat a little worried, though, about the scheme change for him. Very intrigued to see, because even though he may have been in a 4-3 at Tulsa, he was playing more of like a 5 technique there. So, you know, they spent 2 years trying to turn him into an outside linebacker in a 3-4, and now they're saying, oh, we're going to switch this up on you. And sometimes there's just players like that get put in a tough position, and it's not really their fault. But, hey, maybe it works. I don't know. Eddie Jackson, even if he doesn't get to 2018 level, like that would be obviously the best case scenario, but even if he just gets like 3/4 of the way back to that, like it would be a big upgrade. And I do think that this offense and this emphasis, or this defense, I should say, and this emphasis on takeaways could lead to better things for him and get his hands back on the ball again. I'm going to go with the O-line, and it's not Tevin Jenkins. It's actually Larry Borum. I liked what I saw, limited sample size, but from what we saw from Larry Borum, I thought he handled himself very, very well as a rookie. The amount of weight he lost coming from Missouri to get himself in that shape, to have that much success as a rookie, very, very intriguing to me. Olin, I don't know. Do you think he can kind of keep that going? A lot of that will depend on how this offseason goes for him, but I like him.
Yeah, I think it was amazing, his footwork for a young guy. And he just had a knack for putting himself between his man and the quarterback, or his man and the running back, right? And watching him, it was fun because they'd move him to right tackle, left tackle, and he just had a knack for blocking his man, which is not easy to teach, right? And he's a big guy, but the thing that immediately, like you talked about with Travis Gibson, is the first thing Poe said is we want to get quicker and lighter, which for me, that's Borum, outside zone. Borum was kind of a Juan Castillo guy, right? A big guy, really good feet, good athlete. Juan raved about big guys who are good athletes. Same thing, right? So does he fit what Pose is trying to do? Because when you think, they think, okay, where do you want to be athletic and fast? Well, in the middle of your line, right? And then, okay, do we put him at right tackle? Does Pose, you remember Mitchell Schwartz, the all-pro right tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. So Pose has seen a lot of good right tackle play. So I was excited about him last year. When I heard that, Adam, from Pose, it made me question him specifically. Okay, does he fit what they're thinking about there, right? Because Borum is 6. I mean, even though he lost weight, he ended up being.
He lost a ton of weight, but makes you wonder, can he lose any more? Probably not.
Well, I don't know. And I'm with you. Listen, I don't agree with that whole. I think I've seen quick guys who are big. Like in the outside zone scheme, the team that runs it the best is the 49ers. Trent Williams is the key to the scheme. Him and Kittle. Obviously, Kittle's a dominating blocking tight end, but he's a big. You don't have to be small to be quick, right? You don't have. That's why when he said that, I was like, "What does that even? I don't even know what that. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I could say you want to get quicker, right? But like what level of lean mass, what level of body fat equals quickness for an offensive lineman? Then,
True.
Since you're going to say that.
The more I thought about that, I feel like he was trying to send a message to his team.
Yeah.
More so than really lay out a blueprint for who he's going to go sign in free agency or who he's going to draft, especially because, and maybe this was a rookie mistake by him as a first-time GM, but I doubt it, that what they say at the combine is always very calculated. And how many times do we say Ryan Pace say one thing in Indianapolis and then go out and do the exact opposite, right, in free agency? Because they're trying to throw other teams off their scent. I think that was more just a challenge to his offensive linemen who are there saying, hey, we got to make some changes in the way you are going about your business in the offseason.
Yeah, that is true. But if you look at the history of outside zone offensive line coaches, they think they can get them in the later rounds, get smaller, quicker guys, and run guys side to side. That's what they think. That's what they believe. Alex Gibbs, that's what he believed, right? These guys, the outside zone, Alex Gibbs actually learned it from McNally, who was the Bengals offensive line coach with Munoz and Ickey Woods. Ickey Woods was one of the first guys to run outside zone when they made that run back in the day. So anyway, I'm with you. It's just, to me, it sounded like, what it sounded like to me, Adam Moore? It sounded like to me like they were in coaches' meetings, and that's what the coaches were. This is the kind of guy we want, right? And Eberflus said, bring your track shoes. Yeah, right? We're going to do a lot of running around here. So we'll see. We'll see where Borom fits in, but as an offensive line guy, watching him last year, I agree with you. I agree that he has a chance to be a player. You worry a little bit about the times he was always kind of seemed to be injured in and out of the lineup, right? He was injured early in camp for a while, came back, then he got injured again. So eventually I'd like to see him play 16 games. But the Bears, again, like we talked about on offense, name a position and tell me if you don't have a question about it.
That's a problem with this roster right now. So many question marks.
I mean, really, running back is maybe the spot.
Yeah, but even you just talked about outside zone, right? We're an outside zone team. Is David Montgomery an outside zone running back? My answer would be no. He's not an outside zone running back. Now, David Montgomery is an identity guy. He's a culture guy. He's a guy you want on your football team. He's tough. He runs the damn ball. I love him to death when he runs the ball. But if we're going to run outside zone, right, David Montgomery, but the Packers had a two-headed monster. They had a guy run inside. They had a guy run Aaron Jones run outside zone. So we'll see where that goes. But even at running back, my question is, does he fit what Getsy wants to do, what Chris Morgan wants to do? They want to run the ball, one cut and go.
Oh, and maybe that's a good segue here because we just talked about players we're excited about, players that maybe are due for regression. It could be scheme fit, and would that be maybe like a David Montgomery for you? But, yeah, I'll start off here, just someone that you got to look at, well, to have regression, you also have to have, like, I guess, trajectory forward, right? In the season prior, Darnell Mooney was like one of the bright spots, right? And had over 1,000 yards, had 81 receptions. But is he a guy that's due for regression? Because, yes, Allen Robinson did not have a good statistical season. This wasn't there enough for the Bears. But if you take him away, and we'll see how the Bears kind of fill that spot out there. They're going to bring wide receivers in. But is he due for regression because you don't have somebody else out there? You can kind of just look to Juju Smith-Schuster, 2019, the year after Antonio Brown left. Look, Juju in 2018 had 111 receptions, 1,426 yards. 2019, 42 receptions, 552 yards. Did deal with some injuries there, but you didn't have that guy. You didn't have Antonio Brown there, and you're saying, hey, Juju, can you make up for that? It didn't quite happen. Again, he did deal with injuries, but is that the road that Darnell Mooney can be on if the Bears don't get a true number one?
Yeah, of course it could be a road he can be on if the Bears don't get true number one because, I mean, his stats would be there because he would be the number one.
Yeah.
But it's just, is Mooney a dominant wide receiver? I mean, obviously, you bring up the easy names to say, I understand this. Devontae Adams, right? I mean, that's the easy name. Is he a guy Getsy wants to take his best receiver? If you just look at the Joe Moorhead, you look at the Matt LaFleur, he wants to move him around. He wants to find matches for him. He wants him to be the guy. Darnell Mooney made a lot of big catches, just didn't see him be dynamic, put the ball in the end zone. A kind of guy that scares the defense out of their fronts or what they want to run. The kind of guy we got to double. If you face Jalen Ramsey, if you face the top cornerbacks in the league, that one guy can take him away. And that's a problem. Yeah. Right? So he could, if you don't get him any help, which he has no help on the roster right now, you expect them to get him help, obviously. He could regress, yes.
Is there anybody else that you're thinking of in terms of?
Yes. the first guy that's interesting to me is Roquan Smith.
Okay.
Right, because Roquan Smith, he played behind two gapping. Right, his best games, Akeem Hicks was on the field, and Akeem Hicks was eating up a lot of linemen when you watch it closely. Now they're going to a one gap. The defensive linemen are going to ask to penetrate, and they're not going to be asked to keep the guys off the linebackers.
That's a good point.
If Eberflus coaches the system the same way as Lovey and Rod, it's stop the run on the way to the quarterback. Okay, so Roquan is going to be in a single gap scheme where he's responsible for a gap. He's not covered up. He's not allowed to just run. He's responsible for his gap. So it'll be interesting to see if he can handle that well. Now, like Lance Briggs, if you can get yourself a good 3 technique, then you play him. We talked about moving him to will, and that's why. You play him behind the 3 technique.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I think it makes a lot of sense to move him to will. And that's probably what I think we're going to end up see happening. Do you think that that's definitely what they should do?
No, I don't. I don't because they didn't do it with Urlacher. Right?
Yeah, that's why I keep going back to it.
But Urlacher now, I tell everybody this about Brian Urlacher. If he walked in this room, you'd be amazed at how big the man is.
Yeah.
He's a big human. Like
Roquan's smaller. Roquan's smaller.
Every bit of 6'5", every bit of 265. That's why he's a first ballot Hall of Fame. So Urlacher, at first he didn't know how to play blocks because remember he was a safety in college, right? And but they moved him up. But he looked like a Mike linebacker. Roquan actually looks like a Will, right? He looks like a Lance Briggs type, running around and stuff. I don't know. I think you can have a star at that. Hardy Nickerson played middle linebacker for the Bucks, right? You can have a star there at the Mike position. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be a different scheme for Roquan. Now, I would have to go back and look to see what they played at Georgia, but I think they played a 2 gap there. I think that's what they played there. So maybe the first time he's played in a single gap scheme.
Yeah. I just, obviously we heard in Indy last week that they're still not committing to like saying, hey, yep, he's our will linebacker. And I just don't know if it's as much of a foregone conclusion as everyone is making it out to be because Roquan has a lot of qualities. I would like him to still be like the quarterback of the defense, the guy that's calling the plays, the guy. And he could still do that from the will position, but that's kind of your Mike linebacker role. You're in the center. You can communicate to everybody. If you're at the will, sometimes you're sliding over here. And guys move around from snap to snap anyway. It's just I think he can also be a really good Mike linebacker.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's proven that already.
Yeah.
Right? As long as he doesn't get rid of his RKO tackle where he headlocks the guy. But I'm good with it.
It might depend on who they sign, though. They may be they may actually not be They may be non-committal right now because they may have 2 different options they're looking at in free agency, or they wait to the draft, and they got to wait to see what their roster looks like before they say, oh, yeah, we're just definitely going to move you over here, and that's that.
Well, you wait till you see him in the scheme. You wait till you see him running around actually on the field. Berganzi, is that the linebacker coach's name? Berganzi and
Mike Berganzi.
Eberflus. And Eberflus was a linebacker coach, right, under Marinelli. So they have a lot of experience putting guys in their position there. And really, I'm worried about Roquan regressing from the high level he's playing. But I think with Eberflus' experience, Berganzi, I think they'll find a spot for him to excel in this defense. It'll matter more who's in front of him.
That makes sense. I think he has still a high floor, too. It's like if he's going to regress, it's not going to be substantial to where he's not going to be that playmaker. And having Darius Leonard, where Eberflus came from with the Colts, you would love to see like production like that. I don't know if the fumbles are going to happen like Darius Leonard causes them every other game, but regardless, I think you see Roquan Smith. Yeah.
He does.
Got to get the peanut punch, yeah?
He's the best at it since peanut.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
All right, I'm going to cop out because we got to get moving to our next topic, but I'm just going to say Robert Quinn because there's no way he's going to get 19 sacks again.
Gosh, the body positions, he was like a gymnast out there.
It
was insane. And Soldier Field is not an easy place to rush the passer now. That's a slow track for pass rushers.
Like he was like horizontal to the ground, like Matrix sometimes.
When he got Rodgers one time, yeah.
It was insane.
And then, his sister won the gold medal in the hurdles and Olympics. Just probably a pretty gifted family, I would imagine.
It sure seems that way.
So if you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us continue to grow is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll help you out. And in case you missed it, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You'll be signing up with the fastest sportsbook easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
And it's really cool, guys, because I'm seeing new commenters, new listeners, viewers every single day. And if you are just jumping in here wondering what's going on, CHGO, this is what we're all about. Podcast, live shows on every team, every day. It's not just the Bears. Our Bulls show is killing it. Our White Sox guys are ready to go in here right now. We got tons of stuff for you every single day. Cubs, Blackhawks, post-game shows, which are just I was watching after the Bulls win last night. Yeah. That was nice. So we have you covered for every single one of your teams on CHGO. And we have premium written content for our members at allchgo.com. A lot of good content you can find there. Nick had a piece earlier this week on what Justin Fields' former teammates at Ohio State were saying about him. I have a Q&A with Matt Eberflus you can check out. All that stuff is up on allchgo.com for our members. And when you sign up right now, you get a free T-shirt. You can also go in there and buy some of the other merchandise we have. The T-shirts are awesome. I can't wait till I get mine. I'll be sporting the drip, as we're apparently calling it here. I'll be ready to go. And there's a members-only Discord in the CHGO Lounge. So you're going to want to join the community, and we appreciate everyone who already has done that. All right, one last segment here on today's show, and we're going to move it. We got Olin here, so we got to talk offensive line. Free agency. I mean, guys, we're a few days away. We're seeing guys get let go, told they're not coming back. Cap casualties. More and more names are being added to the list right here. Let's start with I guess it's the Colts show today, but Eric Fisher not going to be going back to Indianapolis. What's your initial impression, Olin, when you hear the name Eric Fisher as a potential left tackle for the Chicago Bears? I
think Eric Fisher is a guy, if you're the Colts, you sign because you have Quentin Nelson, you have Kelly at center. You just kind of need a piece. I forget their right tackle's name now for the Colts, but very good football player also. They have a good offensive line. I don't think Eric Fisher does much for the Bears. Mm-hmm. I don't think he does much for the Bears. Or if you're going to go with Eric Fisher, I just give Tevin Jenkins a shot because he's not a shutdown left tackle, right? He's not that guy who you line up there and say, man, this guy is so much better than the options we already have in place, either Barham or Jenkins, whoever the team sees as the left tackle of the future, maybe. I'm on record, I know he's going to cost you $23, $24 million a year. I think you try to go after Armstead. Mm-hmm. You lock that down and see where your line goes from there. Obviously, a lot of teams are going to be after Teron Armstead, right? I'd rather have Dwayne Brown than Fisher. Fisher, if you face really good pass rushers, he won't win those battles. He won't shut those guys down. You got to give him help. So to me, if you're going to have to help a left tackle anyway, he's not the guy. He's my first. If you ask me first what I think about Eric Fisher, and I don't think he's ever played in the outside zone run system, so I don't know how you would really fit him into that.
I mean, it's obviously an upgrade with what the Bears would have if you're thinking of moving Tevin Jenkins back to the right tackle position. But
what are we doing with Larry Borum then?
That's exactly.
I'd move him to right guard.
You think so?
Okay. But that was before this whole, depends on James Daniels, right? Yeah. This whole process of, again, we talked about outside zone. If you want to run outside zone, your interior 3.
So is Borum better off at guard than tackle in this?
Well, you got to get your best 5 on the field.
Yeah,
right. You got to get your best 5. I know. I didn't mean to. I know you guys know that. I'm just saying, you got to get your best 5 on the field. What do they see Borum as? Because, like you said, like we talked about earlier, they said, okay, we're going to get lighter and quicker. To me, that Borum, okay, I'm going to leave Borum at tackle then. Now, is he a road grading right tackle? If Getsy runs Matt LaFleur's run scheme, they run either a dual, which is a downhill run play right at the defense, or they run outside zone, right? So what do they want to do there? I think Borum can do either. I'd like to see Jenkins at right tackle and Borum next to him if you don't get James Daniels back. And I think you just got a lot bigger, younger, and athletic on the right side of your offensive line.
Interesting.
I was looking at, for potential free agents, I was looking at that left guard position because of the uncertainty, I think, that maybe the Bears have on right now with Cody Whitehair. I don't think he's had better seasons in the past, and kind of looking at some guys that are not going to break the bank, but could provide some youthfulness at that position. Connor Williams from the Dallas Cowboys, top 50 pick in the 2018
Connor Williams
draft.
is not better than Cody Whitehair.
You don't think so?
Not at all. He's not even close.
The last 5 games he played were way better than what he started off the season with.
Right, Tyron Smith was back.
Yes, yeah.
Zach Martin's on his offensive line. You're talking about two of the very best offensive linemen in the NFL. Okay?
True.
So Connor Williams, if you're going to go Connor Williams, you might as well keep Cody Whitehair.
Okay.
Interesting.
I think,
in my opinion.
Yeah, no.
That doesn't mean I'm right. That's just what I would do.
What about Lakin Tomlinson?
No.
Okay. I like
Not
this.
over
We just do
Cody
rapid
Whitehair.
fire.
Brandon Sheriff, obviously that's a
If you can
big,
get
big
Brandon,
ticket. And I'm wearing the Iowa.
Brandon Sheriff, good football player, a little older. Injuries. I think if you're going to play Sheriff that kind of money, I think you'll get James Daniels back.
True.
Right,
Okay.
and I think James, under the right, remember in Iowa, outside zone, Kirk Ferentz, outside zone running system. You see Tyler Lindenbaum. That's what he's coming in this draft as an outside zone center. Same thing as Garrett Bradbury, who hasn't really worked out for the Vikings. But anyway, all that being said, I would sign a young James Daniels and give him that money over Brandon Sheriff.
Well, one thing we were talking about yesterday, I'm on board with paying Ryan Jensen.
Okay. Love Ryan Jensen.
Yeah, I just think that he brings you that nasty that you need at center. And honestly, if it came down to having to pay like big money at that spot or a tackle, I honestly think, like, when I look at this list of linemen, I like Jensen.
I'll go back to, when you talk about Jensen, I like Jensen's game. I go back to the outside zone. Okay, I go back to, does he fit that part of it, right? The outside zone is the center has to be able to reach a man shaded to the play side, which is a hard block. It's a tough block to make. And usually it's Tom Nalen types. It's Tom Nalen played for the Broncos for years. It's Alex Mack, played for the Falcons for years.
And when you say that, just so like our viewers and listeners understand, like you're essentially making a block where to the play side where the guy you're trying to block sort of has a head start on you.
He's on the play side.
Yeah.
Yes. So he is on your – so if you're going to right, put a guy on your right shoulder. And not only that, but the nose guard knows, like, if you reach him, like, he's out of a job. So centers who can do that. So nose guards who get reached get fired. Yeah. And centers who can reach nose guards get paid. Okay, so there's guys, if you were to talk about, obviously this is an obvious guy because this is the system they run. You would talk about a Brian Allen type out of Michigan State, play for the Rams.
Yeah.
He would be the type of center you would talk about in this outside zone. So Ryan Jensen now, I know Ryan pretty well. Big fan of his because of what he does to people. You see Eddie Goldman
watching that tape.
Eddie Goldman then punching him after plays. I heard, went to O-line masterminds and heard Ryan talk about that part of his game where he's just trying to get in people's heads.
It works.
But I don't know if a guy like, say, Chris Morgan turns the film on and tells Ryan Pose, that's the center I want for our outside zone system.
And also, is the quicker, lighter, does he even fit that criteria that they're kind of looking for?
Right, he's a mauler. He's
a
mauler downhill. Doesn't mean that like Adam talked about. It doesn't mean if you want a culture guy, if you want someone who, what else did Ryan talk about when he first got here? I don't like to see them let him hit my guys.
Yeah. I mean,
Jensen's not going to let you.
I need at least one guy on my line like that,
right?
If not more than one.
I think we talked about this, Adam. I was wondering what you thought about this. We talked about this, I think, on our first podcast. When you see them make a Fetty team captain the week after do you think it was a player problem or it was the coaches telling him we do not want retaliation for any of this, right? Because if you're going to make the guy the captain, you're pretty much saying what you did is what we want, right? So, like, it starts to make me wonder, was it the players weren't doing it or they were being told, like, we are not accepting personal fouls. We don't want – I'm not saying, like, that would slow me down at all. It probably wouldn't. But was it a culture problem from the top for the Bears, because the only thing that tells me that is, Adam, like, you make Fetty the captain.
I know, but they were just like, he just made the decision. I don't know if he just gave up on the captains midway through the year, but it was like, who are we playing this week? Oh, the Seahawks are on the schedule. Okay, you played in Seattle. You're the captain. Like,
right? Yeah.
But Bruce Irvin was a captain that week. He'd been on the team for like 6 days.
Are you talking about a guy who had the first letter of his last name on his basketball court in his house, Coach Nagy? So anything is possible there. You know what I mean?
True,
like, I don't know.
True,
you got it in the middle of the Bears logo, so you just pretty much change the C to.
Oh. Well, we want to get to some super chats here before we get out of here, and people wonder where does this money go to? How do you think we pay Olin Kreutz $16 an hour here?
1501. You missed the first one.
That's right.
All I asked is for that cent. Just wanted a cent.
I gave it to him.
The super chats all go to support CHGO and some of our equipment here. All the upgrades. Notice how we don't have any comments stuck today.
Listen, we're running a business.
It's because of the $5 that came in.
CHGO is a business. Like, this is what they're doing here. Like, what do you want? Everything for free?
People do actually, Olin, in this business. They forget that everyone used
gas prices. I don't blame them.
Oh man,
gas prices. I don't blame them.
Oh man, yeah. We got to do something about driving the truck down here from the northern suburbs, right?
You,
That's we got to fix that situation. All right, so Bear Forever 14, who I think has already established himself as one of our loyal viewers so far. We appreciate that. Are there good options at linebacker in free agency this year? And what do you guys think of Troy Anderson to the Bears in round 2? I'm a Montana guy. I'd love to see Troy as a Bear.
Yeah, shout out to Montana, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout out to Montana. Linebackers in free agency. What is it? Hitchens? Is that from Kansas City? If I'm not mistaken, or it's either Cleveland or Kansas City. They both have a connection to Ryan Poles. But if you're not going to go like the Bobby Wagner route and maybe pay $7 to $10 million for a middle linebacker, why not get like a stopgap guy like that where he can come in? And then, depending on where Roquan Smith does end up playing, if he has that will, you have somebody that can free him up to make those kind of tackles. But I think there are some – it depends which route you want to go. Do you want to pay more expensive for a guy like a Wagner, or if you want to do that stopgap guy? I think there are some players that kind of fit that role.
There's actually a lot of names on the linebacker list. We've done some of this already this week where we looked at the wide receivers and we're like, I don't know, the corners, man, they're like all over 30. There's some guys who I think that can be a fit. Anthony Barr, is somebody who Bears fans know well, who has experience in a 4-3 defense. Jordan Hicks became available from the Cardinals. Now I don't know if he's maybe go back to the Eagles, but you should remember him from the Bears-Cardinals game actually this year. Like, that was a guy who was having a pretty good season. I was surprised they let him go. So that's somebody. I'm going to butcher the name, but the
from the Falcons,
the inside linebacker from the Falcons who led the league in tackles this year. He also turns the ball over. So now he be coming from a 3-4 defense. I'd probably have to look at his film a little bit more to see how that translates. But I see a guy who was wearing number 54 for the Falcons, playing in the middle of the field, getting his hands on the football, creating takeaways. I'm like, if I'm turning on this film and I'm Matt Eberflus, I'm liking this guy. So that's somebody I'd keep an eye on too.
I think you guys mentioned the linebacker from Cleveland.
Anthony Walker.
Yeah, he's the one guy I would think about just because scheme fit. And
knows the coaches.
Knows the coach and a guy that you would think the Bears would like. And to be honest with you, I don't know who Troy Anderson is. So
fair enough.
Same.
No, I'll give Anthony Walker an endorsement. Got to know him from his days playing at Northwestern, and very, very smart player. I know there's people who think he can be a coach when he's done playing.
That's the type they said about all Northwestern linebackers.
They don't make exceptions there. You got to be smart to get in there.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not Notre Dame.
And we know Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald is not. You better know your stuff at linebacker.
Oh, yeah. Sure. You playing for Fitz. Absolutely.
Not much time left. Let's get to these two.
Yeah, I got another one here from Connor. Awesome, what are your thoughts on the idea of the Bears trading for DK Metcalf, especially since Seattle seems to be in rebuilding mode? I got to be honest, man. Love the idea. Yeah. Don't know how they can get it done. DK Metcalf, he's commanding a first-round pick.
Yeah. I don't know.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I don't know what Seattle's doing out there anymore. I'd at least call and ask.
Didn't Amari Cooper get a first-round pick?
I think when he went to Dallas.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a first-round pick. DK Metcalf.
But DK Metcalf, obviously his dad, Terrence, very good friend of mine. I played with him here for a lot of years with the Bears.
I still don't understand how DK is that big.
Right, well, Metcalf was a good athlete. No,
okay.
Big man.
Well, I see the athleticism, but
Metcalf's
huge.
a big man.
Yeah.
No, Metcalf's a really big, strong, 500-pound bencher. Anyway,
Okay.
I know his dad. I know where the size and the athleticism is from. Yes, you at least, again, like we talked about with Poles, with Ballard, with Foles, with all you call an ass.
Absolutely.
Right? Especially if they're going to give away their franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
Yeah.
Right. And they got to get, like if they want to just compile picks, well, I got a third or fourth round. All I can say is no.
Yeah, true. One last one before we get out of here. What will the Bears do for current PSL owners when they move to Arlington?
Cross that bridge when we come to it, maybe?
Yeah, I would not be too optimistic about that, though. Also, Hoge, go Wolfpack. My mom was the librarian. Hey, shout out to her. She remembers you. Okay.
Wow.
I'm going to guess. I went to St. Louis High School in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess the librarian doesn't remember me very much.
That's
a wild guess.
That's a good guess.
I'm a little surprised by that because I would go to the St. Ignatius Library just to really take a nap because they had the most comfortable chairs
That's why she
in there.
remembered just snoring.
Yeah, maybe that's what she remembered. But yeah, shout out to Kendall Gill's son, Phoenix, the Wolfpack going downstate to Champaign. Huge game tomorrow. And, go Wolfpack. St. Ignatius, that is my alma mater. And it's really cool to not only see their football program take off, but now their basketball program. And
St. Ignatius is a cool place to watch football on a Friday night in the city. It really is.
We got to set up a Carmel St. Ignatius game down there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'm ready for that. Let's make that trip, but we don't have control over that, but eventually we'll do it. Thank you to everybody watching. Appreciate you. Fun show today.
The guy said, "Hey, Olin, you got to go to the library to be remembered, big man."
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's well said.
Yeah. I think that was the gist of the joke. All right, guys, we will be back tomorrow. Follow us on Twitter. Hit us up. All the content. Go get that membership at allchgo.com and check out PointsBet. CHGO is the sign-up code.
Illinois gear, ILL, INI.
Someone's got to represent. We'll talk to you tomorrow.